There are 19 Kwamis in Miraculous Ladybug, but many rarely appear on screen. That might be because the powers they give are absolutely useless, or maybe it's because they are so strong, it breaks the fabrics of the show altogether. Today, I will be going through every Miraculous Kwami and their abilities, as well as power scaling them so we can figure out which little creature really is the strongest. Some of these powers are absolute game changers, while others are not so much. First off, let's explain what a Kwami actually is and how they work. Kwamis are powerful beings that come into existence when an abstract idea or emotions are formed. This could suggest that new Kwamis could be born in the future. The Miraculouses of creation and destruction are said to be the oldest, which might mean that these were the first forces that humans understood. A Miraculous works by wearing the desired jewelry which holds the Kwami and then saying their phrase to transform. This immediately allows the holder to achieve great strength and agility. We can see this with characters like Marinette, who can hardly walk straight most of the time and suddenly be steady enough to leap across roofs and dodge hurling cars. Just about all the power forms give the same level of combat and strength, with a few exceptions such as the monkey and the bull. With this being said, I'm not going to compare fights between different Miraculous holders, as most of the outcomes of those fights tend to be a result of the wearers and not a reflection of how good the Miraculous actually is. Instead, we'll be ranking them off of their power, usefulness in battle, versatility, and overall impact. Not every Miraculous is used for fighting, so considering other uses is just as important. However, some Kwamis give their holders unique weapons that are very useful in battle and will also be considered. In earlier seasons, Miraculouses would be limited to one use before having to recharge. Fortunately, in Season 6, we see these powers being used repeatedly without having to recharge. This definitely changes the usefulness of most of these powers. Let's start off with the worst Miraculous they might have already been able to guess just from watching the show. Daisy, the Kwami of the Pig Miraculous, who gives the power of jubilation. This power allows people to see their deepest desire and makes them feel good after receiving a gift.
That's a superpower?
We only see this power being used once to relieve Juleka from her negative emotions. We don't know much more about what else it can do. Best case scenario, it can completely change someone's emotions. This would make fighting akumatized villains way more impactful, as emotions are what Hawkmoth relies on for akumatizing. Otherwise, this ability is pretty weak, and since she isn't given any other weapons, it could only be useful if Pigella turned out to be a therapist. With its lack of power and usefulness, this puts the Pig Miraculous in last place. Another bottom tier Kwami is Shupu, the Kwami of the monkey. This Kwami allows you to summon a toy object which allows other players' powers to be messed up if hit by said toy for a short amount of time. I feel like this ability speaks for itself. The only real use for this power is to fight another Miraculous. It does not necessarily render the other person's power useless. It's messy and confusing, making it easy to lose track of what you're fighting. The only reason it does not last is because of the suit ability it provides. Along with increased flexibility and the ability to run on all fours, the suit provides a staff which can be used as a weapon. I mean, it's a staff, but it's better than nothing. With a practically useless ability and very little strength, the monkey follows the pig to the bottom of the list. Next up, we have Stomp, the Kwami of the Ox Miraculous, who gives the power of resistance and durability. This makes the wearer immune to any other Miraculous effect, such as Pollen's Stinger or Plague's Cataclysm. If we were simply pairing the Kwami's abilities in one-on-one fights, Dox would be way higher on the list as it pretty much cancels out some of the heaviest hitters. Unfortunately, on its own, it's a pretty useless power to have. It isn't explicitly said that they are just more durable when powered up. In addition to durability, they are also granted horns, which counts as weapons even though it might be hard to get a hit, but could still be useful in combat. With its limited capabilities, the Ox Miraculous finds itself near the bottom of the list as well. This next one might come as a shock to you, but it's another we have rarely gotten to see. Roar, the Kwami of the Tiger Miraculous, which grants its wearer the power of Clout. You're probably asking, what is Clout? That sounds so cool and useful, but I am disappointed to tell you the Tiger's only ability is a strong punch. Unlike most of the other Miraculouses, this one is very straightforward. It is very similar to Plague's Cataclysm, as it only affects the hand wearing the jewelry and impacts what they touch. Unlike Cataclysm, the objects don't appear to be damaged in any way. When punched, they are more repelled than destroyed. The tiger also shares more similarities to the cat, as Purple Tigress is seen with claws, which I'm counting as weapons. She also has a tail, except hers does not look to be detachable or useful. Since their greatest ability is just knocking things away without actually causing much damage, this puts the Tiger Miraculous third to last. I've seen a lot of people consider this next Kwami to be terrible, but I don't think their ability makes him the worst. This is Waze, the Kwami of the turtle, who gives the ability of protection. He has another straightforward ability because all he pretty much does is create a round barrier. This is only ever useful when keeping things jailed or protecting themselves. He's only able to change the size of his dome shield and cannot alter the shape of it. Although it has come in handy a lot, its lack of of versatility makes it pretty useless in fights. It's shown breaking quite easily, especially against other Miraculouses. The suit does come with a Captain American style shield that they can throw, but does minimal damage. The only reason it is not at the bottom of the list is because we are not considering how every Miraculous would pin up against each other. The show has shown how multiple Miraculous have the ability to overcome the shelter, which would make it even lower on the tier list. As far as practicality, the turtle would still come in clutch, making it number 4 on the list. So far, we've got a pretty clear trend. If your power only works in a certain situation, you're getting pushed down the list. Next on the list is Bark, the Kwami of the dog Miraculous, and it is definitely my favorite Miraculous as its powers are the most unique and balanced in my opinion. Basically anything the holder touches with their ball, they can retrieve from anywhere. While there are many pros to this ability, the cons definitely outweigh them. The ability is limited to the strengths of its holder, as you must be in throwing distance and have accuracy to hit your target. You could also touch the object and retrieve it later, but that requires a lot more strategy. Another negative a lot of people don't realize is unlike every other Miraculous, this one takes time to complete, depending on how far away the item you want to retrieve is. This will not always be a problem, but in a fight, those few moments could be drastic. With all this considered, the dog Miraculous is looking pretty low on the list overall. So far, we have the bottom 6 Kwamis listed. Daisy the pig in last, followed by Shupu the monkey, Stomp the ox, Roar the tiger, Waze the turtle, and Bark the dog. Now this is where we start getting into the more useful, powerful Kwamis. I really like this next Kwami. Mulu the mouse Kwami gives the ability of multiplication. When activating its power, the Miraculous holder is able to divide however much they desire, but they shrink with each divide. I really like this ability because of how many uses it secretly has. It has 3 hidden abilities. Besides just being able to divide, the shrinking ability could be very practical. Being able to sneak around with a mini army of yourself would definitely come in handy. Furthermore, you're practically able to duplicate the items you have on you. Again, the rules for this have not clearly been stated or shown, but they can definitely be implied to an extent. I would have put the mouse higher on the list if we considered how well it pairs with other Kwami's abilities, because you basically have an army of supercharged mice, which is very overpowered. Unfortunately, this tier system only allows for Miraculouses to be judged individually, and with no real other weapons, the mouse Miraculous just has very little strength. It does have a lot of versatility, making it the first mid-tier Kwami. Trix is a fan favorite that a lot of people would want higher on the list, even though they are considered a mid-tier Kwami. Trix is the Kwami of the fox and grants the ability of illusion. Their ability has been shown a lot throughout the show. There's more to dissect compared to the ones we've previously mentioned. The illusions are perfectly realistic and controlled by the holder. Scale does not matter, so they can make anything look real. The only issue is that if you know who you're going up against, it can be pretty easy to tell what is real and what is fake. The Miraculous relies too much on cunningness, which can be used effectively with the right holder, but beyond that, it is almost worthless. This is where we start getting to more complicated Miraculouses, because some of these abilities could be very useful in some situations, but not very useful in others. Kalki the Kwami of the horse Miraculous gives the power of opening portals anywhere in the universe. You could just be standing there and then boom, you just walk through a portal to the inside of the sun. While this is definitely a nice feature to have for getting around places, it is really limited in fight versatility. Your opponent could follow in right after you, making getting away a lot harder. But having a way to teleport is still powerful enough in my book, putting the horse Miraculous in 8th place. Here comes the 4th most shown Miraculous, Pollen, the Kwami of the bee, which grants the power of immobilization. With this power, anyone stung by the holder's fist is rendered frozen in place until they release them or they transform back. In a fight, this power is very handy and almost too strong. One punch and you've practically won, as there's no way for them to move. The only downside is the possibility of stinging yourself and having your ability work completely against you. Also, outside of combat, the bee Miraculous is pretty much useless. Surprisingly, Long the Kwami of the dragon is next. They give the power of the elements and let the holder transform into water, wind, and lightning. The reason I'm putting this one so high is because of how much versatility the dragon provides. It gives you 3 elements to choose from and even more possibilities within each of those elements. This is another Miraculous whose abilities we have seen very little of. We don't even know what the lightning dragon looks like yet, but thinking of other characters in movies who can control the elements can help demonstrate just how strong this ability can be. And they aren't just controlling water, wind, and lightning, they're becoming water, wind, and lightning. There are so many possibilities for this. The positives don't just end there. This is another suit that comes with a weapon, and this time, it's a good one. Put away your little yo-yos and play sticks because the dragon gives you an actual sword. This is the only Kwami who gives you an actual weapon. If you were to pick a fight with any holder, I would avoid whomever is holding the dragon. The next two actually require a lot of debate. They are Ziggy, the Kwami of the goat, and Dusu, the Kwami of the peacock. It might not make sense why we need to talk about these two together, but let me explain. The goat Miraculous gives the power of Genesis. With this power, the holder is able to create whatever they can draw. This power is very similar to Tikki's lucky charm as it involves creation. But with this, the artist has more say in what is being made. Thankfully, you do not have to be an artist to be able to create strong objects. In fact, you could actually just draw a box that contains everything you need inside and save yourself the time. This ability has one of the highest versatilities as you can create as much of anything you want. We don't yet know how big of objects can be drawn. I see no reason why you couldn't just take a little longer to draw huge structures and still have them work. Dusu is the Kwami of the peacock and has the ability to create senti monsters. Senti monsters can range from small little creatures to huge building sized monsters. You could also create a senti monster that is an exact copy of someone else, even down to their abilities, while still controlling everything they do. These senti monsters can be pretty confusing. They also have the ability to become fully sentient if the holder allows them to. This is a pretty strong Miraculous. You might have realized why this has sparked some debate. With the goat Miraculous, you can create any object. Why could that object not be a sentient monster, thus making the peacock Miraculous just a duplicate? We have barely seen the goat Miraculous being used, so we still do not know the full scope of its abilities, but there are still plenty of excuses we can make on its behalf. It's safe to assume you could create large-scale monsters that we have seen the peacock create, but even if the goat Miraculous is not able to create monsters or organic life, it could instead use a material similar enough to human features to do the same trick as the peacock. This pretty much makes the goat Miraculous just a better version of the peacock Miraculous, with the exception that their creations cannot become fully sentient. Alright, let's recap again. In the low tiers we have Daisy the pig, Shupa the monkey, Stomp the ox, Roar the tiger, Sways the turtle, followed by Bark the dog, Mulu the mouse, Trix the fox, Kalki the horse, Pollen the bee, Long the dragon, Dusu the peacock, and Ziggy the goat. Now let's go into the godlike abilities. These definitely change the game. We need to talk about the first two overpowered Kwamis together since we see them together so often. That's of course Plagg, the Kwami of the cat with the power of destruction, and Tikki, the Kwami of the ladybug and the power of creation. The cat is able to destroy anything it touches, while the ladybug can create anything to solve any problem. It's hard pinning these two against each other as both are meant to be perfect equals that balance each other out. They both have strong abilities that are used in many ways. Both suits are equipped with useful weapons or tools that each character is constantly relying on. If we consider how much damage each Miraculous can cause, the destructive power of the cat would surely take first, even though the ladybug could easily conjure up a weapon to create a lot of damage herself. This comparison is going to come down to versatility and how many different problems they can solve. This isn't even a hard decision now because Tikki, being the Kwami of creation, can make the solution to just about any problem. It is shown how all these random objects are used to solve every problem the characters have, to the point where Ladybug isn't really doing much herself. The Lucky Charms are acting like a force of nature. By just existing, they end up resolving the conflict. By having a Lucky Charm, it's guaranteed you'll win every encounter, forcing Tikki right above Plagg. There are two time travel Kwamis that are both super overpowered. I mean, anything involving time travel is overpowered, but these just feel broken. Let's talk about Sass, the snake Kwami first. The snake Miraculous gives the ability of second chance, allowing holders to set a checkpoint in time and be able to return to that point. It's obvious how broken this ability is. You're basically allowed to do whatever you want, and it doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. You can just reset and try again. Putting yourself inside a Groundhog's Day time state allows for infinite amount of options that ensures you achieve your goal. How could any character lose with this? With such a great power that feels like a cheat code, the Snake Miraculous makes its way to the top 3. The other time travel Miraculous is right above it. Fluff, the Kwami of the bunny, provides the power of time travel. Unlike the Snake Miraculous, the bunny creates a portal which takes you to any point in time. The limitations are less, as there aren't any rules about going to the same place in time twice. The good guys give themselves rules about keeping the timeline in check, but that's more of a suggestion. Having the ability to change the past and time travel to the future as many times as you want has got to be the strongest power ever. Even Ladybug realizes this and sends Bonix to guard the Miraculous, since you are practically unstoppable once you have it.
You'll have to continue wearing it in order to protect it until Monarch is defeated.
With all this being said, the power of the bunny Miraculous is number 2. We made it to the last and best Kwami. You're probably wondering, what could be better than time travel? If you know the only Kwami I have yet to mention, then you might have an idea. It's one we have barely seen, yet it takes first place. It's Oriko, the Kwami of the rooster. Orko gives its holder the power Sublimation. Basically, this means any power he wants. Now, there are limitations. You can have any ability you want, but it cannot already exist with another Kwami. This would eliminate a lot of options for good powers, as the best have already been taken. But you'd be wrong, because the specifications for what powers are already in use are very limited. There are very little rules surrounding the rooster, even though it has so many possibilities. There are plenty of ways around the rules. Sure, you can't have the ability to make anything you draw real, because the goat Kwami already provides that power. But there's no Kwami that provides the ability to make anything you write about or say. By simply changing the way the powers are used, it makes it different enough to be an entirely new set of abilities. You can't create a shelter like the turtle, but you can create an impenetrable wall. You can't create perfect illusions like the fox, but you can change people's perspective to see whatever you want them to. And you can't travel through time, but you could probably give yourself the ability to do just about anything, which can include time travel. There's so many ways around the rules. You practically have every Kwami's power, but better at your disposal if you play it right. The Rooster Kwami has the most overpowered ability. If you know how to use it, it's stronger than any other Miraculous. This is why the Rooster will always be number one. That was a lot to go through. Let's do one final recap to show the tier list. Still at the bottom, we have the pig, power of gift giving. Next to the monkey of derision. The ox of resistance, followed by the tiger of clout, weighs the turtle. Then there's the dog of retrieving, right behind the mouse of multitude, and the fox of illusion, and the horse of voyage. Up next starts the top 10 with the bee of subjection, the dragon of elements, peacock of sentimonster, goat of genesis, and butterfly of transmission. Our final top 5 are the cat of destruction, ladybug of creation, snake of second chance, the bunny of time travel, followed by the last and best, Orko, the rooster of sublimation. And that wraps up my ranking of the 19 Kwamis in Miraculous Ladybug. From the underwhelming to the completely overpowered, it's crazy how much variety these creatures bring to the table. Some Miraculouses are clearly designed for combat, while others shine in strategy and support. But at the end of the day, every single one has played a role in the Miraculous universe. Do you agree with my ranking, or would you put certain Kwamis higher or lower? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this breakdown.